Okay, I think we can get started now. I think everybody's kind of trickling in from the lobby. To introduce myself, my name is Ella. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm the first year foundation student lead at the Student Experience Office this summer. I'm going into my fourth year at Queens, and I'm majoring in math and minoring in computer science. I'm going to be the host for the webinar this evening. Please note that this webinar is being recorded, and it will be available for viewing on the Student Experience Office's YouTube channel and our website tomorrow. Before we start this webinar, I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge and reflect on the history of the land that Queen's University is situated on. Kingston is located on the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe and Haudenosaunee Indigenous peoples. My intention in acknowledging this traditional territory is to recognize the significance for the Indigenous peoples who lived and continue to live upon it, and whose practices and spiritualities are tied to the land and continue to develop in relationship to the territory and its other inhabitants today. As a settler and uninvited guest, I try to make an effort in my daily life to educate myself about Indigenous culture and practices by attending Indigenous-led events on campus and exploring Indigenous spaces. I encourage all of you to do the same. I recently had the opportunity to take a walking tour of Indigenous spaces and art on Queen's campus and reflect on what they can tell me about Indigenous experiences. A particular space that I enjoyed exploring was the Endayon Taganusadé Residence Courtyard. It features a large gathering space with Indigenous symbolism, and in the center of the space, there's a large turtle shell, which really made me think about Turtle Island, which is the Indigenous name for the continent of North America. This space really reminds me of Indigenous teachings that are centered on interconnection with the land and encourages me to reflect. It's very important to reflect on Indigenous histories and teachings and to contribute to a more inclusive community that works towards reconciliation. If any of this is new to you, or if you'd like to learn more, I encourage you to explore the resources offered by the Office of Indigenous Initiatives and the Four Directions Indigenous Student Center, both online and on campus here at Queen's. So thank you for taking this moment to reflect and learn with me. I'm now going to pass it over to our main speaker for today, Tom, who is the Assistant Director for Residence Life and Services. Welcome, Tom.
Thanks, Ella, and thanks everyone who's joined this webinar. I appreciate you taking time out of your day. So as Ella said, my name is Tom Galini. I use he, him pronouns, and I'm going to be talking to you about self-selection. But before we do that, I did just want to kind of talk a little bit about campus and residence more broadly, just so we kind of have that kind of shared foundational knowledge. So going into the 2026-27 academic year, we're going to have just over 4,800 bed spaces in residence. Just under 2/3 of those rooms are single or single plus rooms. So single rooms may have a variety of washroom styles. Single plus rooms are those where we have two single rooms sharing a washroom. Those 4,800 beds are split over 18 residence buildings, and they are split over two campuses as well. So we have two residence buildings out on West Campus, and we have 16 residence buildings here on main campus. And then, as well as first year students, we do have some upper year students living in residence. We just have one floor of one building dedicated to upper year residents. So the vast majority of upper year students will live in the community in their second, third, and fourth years and beyond. And then we also have 175 student leaders living in residence. So those are DONs. So those are upper year students who have been through a training program. Many are returning DONs, and they are there to help facilitate connections, build community, be a point of contact if you need access to a resource and not quite sure. They can kind of point you in the right direction. So each floor will have a Don who will be responsible for that community. And then we also have resident societies, so that's the student government in residence. So lots of people, lots of great things happening. And just to mention also, we have 3 dining halls. So 2 dining halls on main campus, 1 dining hall on West Campus. So just to give you a visualization of where those residence buildings are, if you haven't been able to make it to campus, you can see on the right-hand side of the screen, the majority, like I said, residence buildings are on main campus. A lot of them are clustered in that kind of corner towards the middle of the screen. And then we do have a few other residence buildings. They look far away on a map. So if you haven't been to campus, you might think, oh my gosh, that looks so far away. So just to kind of give you some context, if you're walking kitty corner from main campus, You can do that in about 15 minutes if you're an able-bodied person. And you're never more than about 850 or 900 meters away from a dining hall. So campus is nice and compact, which is great for kind of making friends and bumping into people on the way to class. Like I said, we do have a campus, a West Campus, that's June Waste Hall, comprising 2 residence buildings. And actually, we have about 13% of our total inventory out at West Campus. So just over 600 bed spaces are at West Campus. So it is a large community, but it's a tight-knit community. And that's connected to main campus via Union Street. We have regular bus services operating daily and also into the night and early morning as well. So again, if you haven't been able to get onto the residence website or maybe to residence to look at some rooms, we do have a few pictures just to kind of show you some examples. So we have 6 room styles. So we have a single room. So like I said, that may come with different types of washrooms. So maybe a communal washroom. We do have some single rooms with private washrooms. We then have single plus, so 2 single rooms which share a washroom. And they are our more modern buildings. So we have 2 that were built for the double cohort, so getting on for over 20 years now. And then we have 2 that were built about 12 years ago, or maybe even 15 years ago now. And then we have Ende Antigone Estate, which is our most recent building, which is just coming into its 4th year of operation. So we also have double rooms. And then you can see we also have loft doubles. So those are where the beds are either bunk beds or beds over the desks, triples and quads. So our rooms and our bed spaces are based on square footage and also the number of beds in a space. There may be some, you can see on the floor plans, for example, though on the website, that there are some triples or quads that may have kind of additional spaces, but the prices are based on the number of bed spaces in a room, and they come with the furniture that you can see, so bed, mattress, and then different storage options depending on the room, but typically kind of consistent in terms of having an armoire, shelves, a wardrobe, desk chair and desk. And then you'll see that yeah, it's not necessarily kind of all the same furniture in every single room, but those are kind of standard attributes for each room. So that's just kind of, I hope to kind of get us onto kind of the same page about kind of what we're talking about when we're looking at rooms. So when we're looking at washroom types, Queen's, we have 4 different washroom types. So there are some universities where there are maybe just a few residences or lots of residences, but all the rooms and washroom styles are the same. So we have a mixture. So those 18 residence buildings were built over the last 100 years. And so they do obviously were configured differently at different times. So we have private washrooms. So those are washrooms that are located adjoining the bedroom space for exclusive use. We have single user. So these are washrooms that are not attached to a bedroom and are shared between all students on the floor. So Victoria Hall and Chown Hall have single-use washrooms. Also, we've just completed some renovations in Leonard Hall on the 1st floor annex. That's where study floor is located, or what part of the study floor community, as well as Leonard Hall ground floor, where we have single-user washrooms now instead of communal. Semi-private, which I talked about a little bit now, so that's a single plus. So the washroom is located between 2 single rooms and just share between those 2 students, and then communal. So on the floor plans I've mentioned a couple of times, you will be able to see the communal washrooms, and you'll also be able to see the single user washrooms. We have marked for the communal washrooms which ones or how they are gendered. So we typically have a female, male, and all gender communal washroom on each floor. That does depend on the configuration of the particular building. So when you are looking at the building pages, we on those pages, we have put the kind of the default of the primary washroom style in that building. It doesn't mean that that building necessarily exclusively has that type. So a good example, Victoria Hall, which I just mentioned, the default there is a single user washroom, but we do actually have some rooms that are single with a private washroom in that. And so there are single rooms with private washrooms in varying numbers across a number of our residence buildings. So those are a little bit of information if you haven't already kind of been able to hop onto the residence website, which I really encourage you to do in addition to being at this webinar tonight. I'm now going to walk you through kind of what that self-selection process looks like. We'll talk about dates first. So you should have received an email if you were accepted into a living and learning community or a unique community, or if you've been approved for an accommodation. If you were successful in getting into a living and learning community or a unique community, you should have had the opportunity to opt out. So if you didn't get that email, please do check your applicant email and your Queen's email. Tomorrow, sorry, that date is wrong. So July 9th is you're going to get an email about your self-selection date and time. So that will tell you that your time is viewable in the Housing Ancillary Services portal. In terms of self-selection itself, we actually run kind of several self-selection groups. So for folks who are in living and learning communities and unique communities, you know which building, or you should know which building you're going to be in and which room types are in that building. So you'll be picking from a kind of a predefined, quite narrow range of rooms, and that will happen on July 13th and 14th. And then we'll move into a self-selection for students with approved accommodations. So you will see, again, a range of rooms that meet your approved accommodation. So you're not going to see every single room in residence. The goal of accommodations is providing you with a space that meets your approved accommodation need. There are going to be a range of rooms available in those self-selection groups. So for example, if you've been approved for a single room, there will be some single plus rooms available, a limited number available in that self-selection group. And then kind of the big one is general self-selection, which will be the following week. And so that'll be for anyone who is not in a living learning community or a unique community or with an approved accommodation. And so we'll be running 11 hours a day for a couple of days and then into Friday. And self-selection is going to close at 4:30, sorry, that should be 4:30 p.m. On July 24th. We do invite you to reach out if you do have questions. We know that this may be kind of a familiar process for staff, but for you, it's the first time you're going to be going through it. So do reach out if you have questions. What we would ask you, however, is just reach out to us once and through one channel. So if you send us an email, we'll get back to you. If you leave us a voicemail, we'll get back to you. You don't need to kind of send us 2 messages on live chat, or maybe have your supporter or mum or dad kind of sending 2 emails as well. That does really slow down our ability to respond. So we just ask you to use one channel if that's okay. In terms of getting prepared for self-selection, there's just a couple of things that you'll want to do. So I've mentioned floor plans on the website now. Those are color coded and the colors represent different room types, so single, double, loft double, triple, quad. And they do also show communal washrooms, common rooms and elevators. We don't show room numbers for privacy reasons, because obviously anyone on the internet would be able to kind of look at those room plans and then kind of figure out where folk are. So the room numbers are not on those floor plans. The floor plans do show which way is north. You can also see that on Google Maps below. So Lake Ontario is located to the south. We know it's really important to you to kind of pick a room and a bed space that you're going to feel comfortable in, and we really do want to help you. There are limits to kind of what information we're able to share. We have a wealth of knowledge about residents and the rooms in residence, but we can't tell you, for example, like if I'm in this room, will I definitely see the sun rising every morning? we just aren't able to kind of go into that much detail about every room. So we're trying to provide as much information as we can through those pictures online, through the 3D walkthroughs, through the floor plans, through Google Maps, etc. Just be aware that the floor plans that are on the website do have a slightly different format to the floor plans in the self-selection system. And so they don't have labels for common rooms or washrooms, and also that they're not color coded, but I'll show you in a second just how you're able to kind of identify different room types. And just again, in terms of kind of getting prepared, an earlier time slot will provide you with more choice. A later time slot will have less choice. So we really do recommend kind of building a list ahead of time, so you're kind of able to kind of quickly jump around in case your first choice is not available. And to have different buildings and room styles. So for example, if you're kind of dead set on getting a single plus, depending on your self-selection date and time, you might not actually get that. So having your first choice as Brant 4th floor, and then your second choice is Brant 3rd floor, and then your third choice as Brant 8th floor is probably not going to be a kind of a good recipe for kind of quickly being able to kind of jump to different available room styles. So mixing it up is the name of the game. And then I mentioned this when we were talking with when we were looking at the different room types, but the multi-occupancy rooms are designated based on number of bed spaces in the room, so they don't guarantee any additional amenities, although some do typically come with communal space or washrooms, etc. And hopefully, when you're on the website, so I just got the link there. I'm not sure if someone can put that in the chat, but for each building there is a floor plan, and hopefully that's visible when you are on that building webpage. So we are also very soon ready to release or enable the roommate matching or roommate group creation function. So that is going to be something you're going to be able to do prior to self-selection and during self-selection. You're going to be able to either update or complete the roommate matching questions that were available when you first applied to residence. So if you didn't do that, you will still have an opportunity to do that if you are interested in looking for a roommate. And then you will be able to search for students with similar habits. So if you just to the kind of the right hand side of the screen, you'll see a kind of a circle, so it kind of give you a percentage match with other students, so you can kind of see you know how closely your habits match. You can send a message, and you can view their profile as well. There are going to be some restrictions in place. So for example, if you are in a living learning community and someone else is not in a living learning community, then you wouldn't be able to form a roommate group with them. There's going to be some information about how all this works in the portal when that functionality is available, and so we will include that in an email. The goal is to have that ready tomorrow when we send that self-selection email. Okay, so self-selection date and times. Your self-selection date and time is unique to your living arrangement. So as I mentioned, we have those kind of smaller self-selections for different groups. So say, for example, you're in a unique community and you happen to get an 8:30 a.m. time slot on the first day of the unique community self-selection pool. And then you think, well, actually, I don't think I necessarily want to be in the unique community. You can opt out. We hope you will have done this already. But then if you go into general self-selection, you wouldn't then just kind of get your self-selection time and not be 8:30 a.m. on the first day of general self-selection. So there is something to kind of think about when you are doing that, particularly if you have an accommodation. Sometimes folk want to kind of roll the dice and go into general self-selection, and we can't necessarily guarantee that you'll be able to get a room that meets your or approved accommodation, depending on what that accommodation is. So yeah, there are just some kind of nuances to that. If you're in a roommate group, then the first person to choose a room will choose a room for all members of the group. So you'll all get a self-selection date and time, but only one person needs to pick a room. Typically, that's the person with the earliest date and time, because more choices available. And on that note, we're going to be providing access to 20 students every 10 minutes. So what that means is once those 10 minutes are done, it doesn't mean that the window closes and you can't pick a room. It just means we're going to be putting more students into the system. And so we do kind of encourage you to pick kind of when your window opens, just kind of give yourself kind of the best availability. I mentioned accommodations a couple of times now. So yes, if you have an approved accommodation, you'll be able to pick from a range of rooms that meets that accommodation. You're not going to see every room in residence. It's not kind of a jump to the front of the line and pick whatever room you want. It's the goal is that we will provide you with bed spaces that meet your approved accommodation. There are going to be some of you that we need to manually place. So for example, maybe you've been approved for several accommodations and we have a couple of rooms like that. And so we need to manually place you to make sure that you get that room and someone else doesn't kind of take it in general self-selection. Or it may be, for example, that you're in a unique community and we do have some bed spaces that meet your accommodation in that unique community, but not everyone. So again, we would need to place you. So you should have received an email about that if we're manually placing you. If you haven't yet submitted a health or non-health accommodation form, you can still do that. We won't be able to review it before self-selection, but we will continue reviewing submissions. And then what will happen is that you'll go onto a wait list, and over the rest of the summer, we will get some attrition. And then those students will be offered a room to move into a room that meets their approved accommodation. So that may happen before move-in. It's also possible that we will you'll get to move in and that room won't be available. So it really depends on the rooms that become available through that attrition. So for example, if you've been approved for a single room, but everyone who is kind of cancelling is in multi-occupancy rooms, for example, that doesn't kind of change our inventory for you. So there is a possibility that you would be moving in to a room that doesn't meet your approved or your accommodation. So once you're in the system, we do recommend, like I said, choosing at the time your window opens. It does use a graphical interface like I'll show you. So really encourage you to kind of, if you are able, I know some of you might be working, some of you may be doing kind of courses over the summer, you might be at camp or whatever, wherever possible, try and sit down with like a desktop or a laptop and with a high-speed internet connection. You will be able to do this on mobile, but it's better to do it on desktop or laptop, like I said. Please only use one device. If you're using two devices and you're trying to kind of choose rooms, there is a potential that neither of your choices would be saved. It also makes it a lot more difficult for us when it comes to troubleshooting, and also adding more devices is essentially introducing more load onto the system. We are using a new platform which has a large capacity, but we don't want to be getting to that capacity limit if we can help it. So please just use one device only. When you're looking for rooms, there may be something that you've identified on the floor plan when you've been doing your research and it gets into self-selection and you aren't able to choose it. That means it's not available for some reason. So most likely that another student has already picked that room. And don't forget, if you are in general self-selection, we will already have had those LLCs and unique communities and accommodation self-selections taking place earlier. So there will already be a number of rooms that have been taken. If you're looking for a double room, it's not always completely obvious from the floor plans which one is a double room or a loft double. So please do take the time to kind of review the information associated with the bed spaces to see if you're looking at a double or a loft double. That information will be available on multiple screens and before you finalize. So once you've picked a room, you're going to have 5 minutes to kind of confirm that. You'll have a little countdown in the top right-hand corner, and then when it gets to 1 minute, you're going to get a pop-up. It's going to say you have 1 minute left to confirm your selection. If the timer runs out, you're going to have to start again. So that there is I guess a slight amount of urgency to this. If it runs out, all you have to do is start over again. It does, however, mean depending on how quickly you do that, that the room that you originally selected may not be available. Once you select your bed space and submit it, so once you've clicked on confirm and submit, that's it. You won't be able to change it. And so yeah, after self-selection, if you've not selected and you're in a living learning community, unique community or accommodation, then we're going to manually place you. And that's because we need to kind of make sure that you're in the space that kind of meets your application requirements or your accommodation. For general self-selection, if you don't choose your bed during self-selection, we're going to contact you to confirm that you wish to live in residence. So maybe something changes, and so then we will manually assign you to a room based on available inventory. And just a note about multi-occupancy rooms, so loft doubles, doubles, triples, quads. You are going to be selecting a bed space in a room, and so the bed spaces are essentially you'll choose the bed when you move in. There's no you don't do that during the self-selection process. Alrighty, we are going to have a look at this self-selection system. You can see the process. So we're going to go to portal.housing.queensland.ca, and then once you get there, you're going to log in with your Queen's Net ID and password. I've already set up my multi-factor authentication, and I have already logged in today, so it's not asking me to do that again. Please do set up your multi-factor authentication before self-selection. So once you've logged in, your screen is going to look roughly similar to mine. I have a few additional bits on here just because I'm a testing user. So for example, you will see kind of your name and your details. You will see your application status, which is slightly moot at this point because we know that you are coming into residence. And then you will see your self-selection date and time. So my self-selection date and time started in the past. I'm a little bit tardy, but that's not going to be a problem for me. When you are looking at self-selection, you're going to click here and then just continue with the academic year. So this is just some of the information I already talked about. So select the bed from the drop-down menu, assign the bed space, and then click on finalize selection. And then a little bit of information about the countdown timer, and bed space selections are final. So just trying to kind of reinforce those points before you take part. So you can click save and continue, and that's going to take you into the main session, into the main screen. So what you'll see is some intro text. You're going to see filters, so you can filter by room type. You can also filter by washroom type, and whether we do have about 10% of our rooms are still carpeted. And then you can do it like that, or you can scroll down to the map and you can click on a building, or you can go down here and the buildings that are available to you are going to show up in a list. So what is available to you is going to depend kind of on your situation. So if you're in a living learning community, for example, you're only going to see one building, or in some cases there's two buildings. So it really will depend on kind of your circumstance. And if you're in general self-selection, you're only going to see kind of what other folks have not picked. So the further through we go, the less selection there will be. By default, we're looking at buildings that are available on main campus. To switch to West Campus, you'll just change that in this area, and then you can see that Junior School phases 1 and 2 are available. So we are going to look at Ende Antigoniste. So you can either click this, the building, like I said, or you can click here or click in the bottom right-hand corner, see location. We're just going to go through the map to do that, and then all being well, we should see Ende Antigoniste pop up. And indeed we do. So you're going to see which floors are available. I am in study floor, so I'm only going to be able to see rooms that are on the second floor. So I'm going to click on this blue rectangle. Once I click through here, you're going to see, depending on the building, you may not necessarily see all rooms available, even if you are the first person into the system. So particularly for folks in living learning communities and unique communities, we have essentially designated an agenda to the rooms just to make sure that there are enough rooms for everyone in that community. And so, and that's because particularly with the single plus, if you pick one half, then the other half will be automatically gendered based on your on your gender profile. So you can see all the rooms here that you're able to choose from. You can also pick them from a list, but this way you can kind of see where they are in relation to each other. So maybe I want to pick on 233, 235. So it's going to take me and just show me, okay, well, which part do I want? Do I want the left or the right? Assuming that both are available. Just want to draw your attention to a few other details. So you're going to see a price there, and that's going to be the room and board per term. So residence billing is done by each term, so you'll pay in the fall and you'll pay in the winter. There are also additional fees for residents. So, for example, insurance, the resident society fee, flex dollars. So that fee that you see there is just for the room and board. But it is going to show you that it's a single plus room. It's going to show you how many bed spaces are available. So if this were a multi-occupancy room, then it would show if there's 1, 2, or 3, or maybe 4 bed spaces available. It's going to tell you if it has disabled access. So we do have a number of rooms that meet the Ontario building code for accessibility. So that would be a yes. If there's any particular room profiles that you need to see, they will be in there. And then it's going to tell you the suite and also kind of where you are. So we want in the end to stay second floor. So you can also pick the room from this list down here. But we're going to go ahead and we're going to pick 235. Okay. And this page is going to show you again that information about the room. So some of those room profiles you can actually see now. So you can see it's a carpet-free room. You can see that it has a semi-private washroom. You can see that it's on study floor. So what's going to happen actually is if you're in general self-selection, there's a possibility that some unique communities or some floors that have living learning communities will not be completely full when it comes to general self-selection. And so you will be able to pick a room, for example, in a unique community like study floor, even if you didn't request it. But you'll be able to kind of see which community that room belongs to before making that choice. So just be aware, for example, if you are, for some reason, if there's a single plus that's available and you want to pick it, just make sure that you're looking to see on these profiles which community it's going to be in, because you won't be able to kind of change that after the fact. There is a room change process that opens in early to mid-September. We do prioritize health and non-health accommodations in that, so just be aware of kind of the room that you're picking. And so for residence fees, if you want to kind of see the full breakdown, just make sure that you have a look at that. Those kind of additional fees for the 9,500, and that's per term. So you'll be paying that twice in the academic year. You'll also see if the other half of the room is occupied or not. So right now, I haven't added this to my cart. I'm just looking at this room. So it's possible that someone else is kind of looking at this room and has added it to their cart. So I'm going to add that now, and that's what is going to trigger those 5 minutes. So you'll see it's kind of thinking about things. So I'm going to select the bed. So there's only one bed in there. I'm going to click assign bed space. And now you can see that timer is counting down. So you have 5 minutes. So this is the final review of your selection. This is going to give you kind of the information you need. So you know your room number. So make a note of that. We will send you a confirmation. Please make a note of that. We're going to tell you the room type. So remember, I was talking about the difference between loft doubles and doubles. Make sure if you want a double room that it says double room here. It's going to tell you the suite. It's going to tell you the building, and it's going to tell you the room and board rate per term. So assuming everything is good, you're going to finalize your selection. And this is going to confirm that you have a room reservation for the academic year. It's going to give you that booking summary again. It's going to give you those profiles again. And it's going to tell you, so this is me, Tom Galini, Tommy G. I'm not going to send myself a message, but you can then message your suite mate or roommate once those other rooms have been filled, and so those messages are going to be available in the portal. And actually this is an example of the email that you're going to get, just saying that you have successfully selected your room in residence for the academic year. That will also go to your Queen's email and to your applicant email as well. So once you've done that, there's nothing further left to do. That is self-selection. So please do, please do read the information that we send carefully. Like Alice said, is going to be submitted or posted tomorrow as well. But hopefully this was useful, gives you a little bit of a window into kind of what you're going to be seeing in a week or 2 weeks' time.
Thank you so much, Tom. So we're going to move to the Q&A portion of our webinar now. So feel free to use the Q&A feature on your screen to submit any questions. And you can also submit them anonymously if that makes you feel more comfortable. When directing questions, you just want to make sure to use the Q&A feature and not raise your hand. Unfortunately, we can't answer any of the questions with the hand raised, so please use them through the Q&A feature. We also have some staff on the back end to answer any questions you may have. So yeah, we'll move to the Q&A portion. Let's see our first question. Okay. Our first question, this one is for Tom. How do we know what our self-selection date and time is?
Yeah, so you're going to get an email tomorrow, your Queen's email. We'll likely send it to your applicant email as well, just because we want to be super sure that you've received that, to let you know that your date and time are available to view in the portal. So remember, I'd shown that kind of widget on the left-hand side. That's where you're going to see your self-selection date and time. Please do be patient. We will not be sending that email at 8:31 tomorrow morning. So we will be sending that email. Please note also that just because you get that email doesn't mean that self-selection starts tomorrow, right? We do have those defined self-selection periods. And also, please do note that all those dates and times are in Eastern time in Canada. So if you're in a different province, if you're an international student, please do pay extra attention. We do sometimes have folk who kind of miss their self-selection time slot by 12 hours because of the time zone changes.
Thank you so much, Tom. Before our next question, I will also mention that if your question is dismissed, this is only because the question might be outside the scope of what we're able to answer today. So we also have some contact information listed in the pinned discussion post if we're unable to get to your question. So this next question for Tom, what support is there during the self-selection process if I run into technical issues?
Yeah, good question. So the best way to get in contact with us is live chat, and that's because on the phone we won't be able to kind of get screenshots or anything, and with email it can be kind of harder to see those emails come in. So live chat is the best way to do this. You'll be able to access live chat through the self-selection portal. Please just provide as much info as you can. So letting us know, what browser you're using. Are you using a VPN for any reason, for example? Are you on Wi-Fi? Are you in a wired network? Are you at a coffee shop? Are you at home? All those things can potentially kind of give us some insights. And like I said, and I don't want to kind of labor the point, but it really helps if we just have kind of one point of contact, because if we have people calling and live chat and email, that can delay us responding either to you or to other folks. And I did mention, please do make sure you've got your multi-factor authentication working properly in advance of self-selection, so that you are able to access the portal smoothly.
Amazing. Okay, this next question, also for Tom. What happens if I miss or I'm not available for my self-selection window?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think I mentioned, if you have an accommodation or you're in a living learning community or a unique community, you will be able to select a room up until July 16th at 4 p.m. Eastern. If not, then you're going to be manually placed prior to the start of general self-selection. And so that's really because we want you to have that space that has been kind of guaranteed for you. If you are in general self-selection, you can pick a room potentially up until 4:30 Eastern on Friday, July 24th. If you aren't able to take part in general self-selection at all, then we'll contact you to confirm that you still want to live in residence, and you would be required to respond by a deadline to retain that space. If you know in advance that you can't make self-selection, so you know either like you're going to be out of the country for the entirety of general self-selection, or maybe you're flying on the 23rd, but you don't know what your self-selection date and time is. We do have the option of staff manually picking a room for you based on preferences that you submit, but that would be at your designated self-selection date and time. We can only kind of pick what is available at that time. We'll do our best to pick something that meets your preferences. We just can't guarantee that. So if you do, if you are in that situation, then please email reslife@queensu.ca, and we can send you a link to the form. For folk who are able to take part in self-selection, we do recommend that you take part, as it just kind of gives you a little bit more agency over the process.
Thank you, Tom. Okay, this next one I'll answer. How can I access the Housing and Ancillary Services portal? I lost the link to the website and I can't find it anywhere. This is a really good question. So you can access the residence portal by going to the Queen's Residence website, and this link is pinned in the discussion post, and then you can click on the Housing Services portal link in the top right-hand corner, and that can be found in the discussion part of the Q&A as well. Okay, our next question. I'll pass this one over to Tom. Can I request to be added to a unique community or apply to a living learning community?
Yeah, good question. Unfortunately not. So, and the reason behind that is that we're trying to kind of configure almost 5,000 bed spaces and 5,000 students to make sure that you will have the right bed space. And at a certain point, we aren't able to make any more changes because we want to because that kind of affects our inventory. So unfortunately, it's not possible to kind of join one of these spaces in advance. For unique community, if there are spaces left going into general self-selection, then you will be able to pick a bed space there. For living learning communities, if there are spaces on that floor, you will be able to pick a room on that floor. You would not necessarily be there is an application process to be part of that living learning community. So it will depend on how those spaces have come about as to whether or not you would be taking part in that living learning community. But in terms of requesting to be added to a unique community or a living learning community ahead of self-selection starting on the 13th, then the answer is unfortunately no.
Okay. Our next question for Tom. How long is the time slot for self-selection?
Yeah, so so the time slot, that's a good question. So I guess the way I'll answer it is, I think what I mentioned earlier, so we admit 20 students every 10 minutes. but your actual time slot is not 10 minutes. It just means that's after that time is when we add more students into the system. And so you will, in the email that you get tomorrow, and I think earlier I mentioned kind of, you will have a larger window to pick your room if for any reason you do miss the start, or you maybe kind of go over those 10 minutes. The system will still be open for a period of time.
Awesome. Okay. This next one, Tom, I'll pass this one to you. Are we able to change roommates or move rooms once we have selected our room?
So unfortunately not. So again, with almost 5,000 beds in play and 5,000 students, it gets very kind of complicated very quickly when folks start kind of doing that during self-selection. So please do make sure that you are comfortable with what you're picking, and when you click that kind of finalize selection button, like I mentioned, we do have a room change form that opens in kind of early to mid-September. Those room changes I mentioned are kind of based on needs, so folk who would have been approved for a health accommodation maybe after self-selection, and non-health accommodations, and potentially other needs, so it's not kind of a first come first serve thing.
Thank you, Tom. Okay, our next question. Can I form a roommate group now?
Not right now, but you will be able to soon. So please do keep an eye out. Like I mentioned, we're hoping to kind of be able to introduce that functionality tomorrow when we send out that email with information about your self-selection date and time. If that for any reason does not happen, we will let you know when that function is available.
Okay, our next one. How does self-selection work with approved accommodations?
Good question. Yeah, I guess maybe I know some people are joining late, so, and I know this is kind of of particular importance to folks with approved accommodations. So the majority of students with approved accommodations are going to take part in kind of self-selection prior to the general self-selection process. So you are going to see a cross-section of our inventory with options that meet your needs. So I think, like I mentioned, like the goal really of this process is that we provide you with a bed space that meets your needs. You are going to have choice, so there are going to be different options available. You will not see every single room that is available in residence, so it's not kind of a jump to the front of the queue, but it does guarantee you that you will have a room that meets your approved accommodation. There are some folks, I think we have 40 to 50 students that we have to manually place, and you should have received an email about this already. So if you have any questions about accommodations, you can contact our resident support coordinator, Molly, at residentsupport@queensu.ca.
Amazing. Okay, our next question. How will room type be determined for each student?
I mean, really, yeah, good question. So really, it's based on what other people have picked. So through self-selection, you're going to choose the room type you wish, but that is the availability is going to be impacted by what the people before you have picked. So the availability of different room types is going to change the further along that we get in the self-selection process.
Okay, our next question. Can I choose a specific bed in a multi-occupancy room?
Good question. So the short answer is no. So you are selecting a bed space in a multi-occupancy room, but not a particular one. Kind of during self-selection, you would not be picking one that is the bed near a window or something. You're picking a bed space, and then when you move in, that's when you would choose which bed space that you want.
Okay, our next question. Is residence guaranteed for the 4 years that I'm at Queen's? Do I have to apply for residence each year?
So no, it's not guaranteed for how long you are here for your undergraduate. So if you do wish to apply in the upper year, you would do that in January. We typically have one floor of one building for upper year students, It's not guaranteed, and it's a lottery. Usually we get something like 150 applications for those 36 bed spaces. So it is quite competitive again. So the vast majority of students will be living off campus in their upper years.
Thank you, Tom. So just because of timing, this is going to be our last question. But to end us off, Tom, what final piece of advice would you give for students to best prepare for their self-selection date and time?
Yeah, I think do as much research as you can about the different buildings and the room types, so that when you go into the self-selection process, you will be kind of prepared. So, like I said, kind of build a short list or a long list of choices, and that you have different options. Make sure that you're somewhere with reliable internet access. If for any reason you aren't, like there are some folk, like we know maybe on vacation, or maybe you're out hunting on the land, and you won't be able to take part in self-selection, do contact us and we can talk about that process I mentioned earlier. But what I'd say is, like, if you don't get your first choice room, I know it can be disappointing, and but what I would say is, like, every upper year student I've spoken to will tell you that, like, wherever you live in residence, you can have a great time. There's a lot of great stuff going on, regardless of what floor, what building, what room you're in. So I think this is, I know it can be a little bit nervous or nerve-wracking kind of going into self-selection. This is just part of your university journey. We really look forward to welcoming you to residence in September, and we know you're going to have a great time.
Thank you, Tom. That's some really good advice. I know it'll be helpful for everybody watching. So I just want to highlight some of our upcoming events. Our Academic Success and Wellbeing at Queen's webinar is on July 23rd. If you want to learn more about living in residence, you can register for our webinar on August 5th. And on August 12th, you can join us for our Residence Movement webinar. You can register for all of these webinars and more on the Student Experience Office webpage. We also have our faculty and school-specific webinars, which have just started to begin. You can watch last night's webinar, Your First Year in Arts and Science, Advice from the Associate Dean, by heading over to our webinars webpage pinned in our discussion post. These webinars are where you will learn more about your program and meet some key staff and faculty. Some of these webinars speak specifically about course registration or have opportunities to ask questions. So if you're unsure about what courses you will take or how course selection works, you don't want to miss out on these. We also have some more webinars just like this one all summer long. You can check all of them out on our webpage at the Student Experience Office to register for any upcoming webinars that interest you. And I really hope to see all of you there, because I'll be hosting most of them. And before you head out, I do want to highlight a quick opportunity to be entered into a draw for a $50 Q-Shop gift card. We have a feedback form on our webinar series, and we want to hear from all of you. All incoming students, parents, and supporters are encouraged to provide their feedback. It'll only take approximately 3 minutes to complete, and it can be done using the QR code on the screen. We'll also post it as a link in the Q&A discussion section. You can complete one feedback form per student experience webinar per person. And if you're watching this as a recording, you can also complete the survey. It will close August 31st at 11:59 p.m. Eastern Time, shortly after the final webinar takes place. So I want to thank our presenter, Tom, and our back-end support staff for their time this evening, and thank all of you at home for attending. We hope you have a great night, and hopefully we'll see you at our other events and webinars soon. So take care, everybody.